This is the first in a series of video reports from China coming from Nimbility. My name is Ian Ford, for those of you who don't know. And today we're going to talk a little bit about 2022, the year just passed, and some of the challenges and difficulties coming out of that year. And we're going to also talk about the year ahead, some of the opportunities and what is on the horizon in the view of the Nimbility team. I'm joined today here at Pudao Wines in Shanghai, one of the top wine retailers in the country. I'm joined here today by Nicole Mao. She's my partner in Nimbility, and she's going to ask me a few questions about 2022 and 2023 just to lead the conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's useful and informative, and here we go.
Ian, great to be with you today at Pudao. So my first question is, you have previously stated that 2022 was the hardest year you have seen in your 30 years in China. Can you elaborate on why this was and how it has impacted the drinks industry?
It's true. I moved to China in 1995 to start my career in the drinks business, and through all the things that have occurred, 2022 was the most challenging year for the industry. The rolling lockdowns, the quarantines, the testing requirements, it created an overall environment that was very challenging for the wine trade, wine and spirits. We had periods of time, for example, 2 months from April to May and into June in Shanghai, where the city was basically entirely shut down for COVID lockdowns, and everything was closed. Every restaurant, every bar, every retail store. So I think everyone can imagine that it's not the lockdown that you might have experienced in North America or Europe. It was quite severe. And that then rolled out across the country to various different cities and regions around China, all the way through really almost to the end of the year. So that was also coupled with all of the global logistics challenges that the wine industry faced in general. Lead times to get wine into China when you were shipping. So it was a very challenging year. The consumers became very conservative. Disposable income directed towards wine purchasing really went down, and people were quite conservative and very tight throughout the year. So it was very tough on all levels. The importers have had trouble figuring out how much inventory they should be preparing and carrying, and so it was just a real challenge all around.
People often say where there's crisis, there's opportunity. What opportunity are you seeing coming out of a crisis year of 2022?
Well, there certainly are some opportunities on the horizon. As zero COVID has been completely eliminated and the border is open and travel has become very fluid again, inbound travelers into China are going to start coming in droves to do business in a market where they haven't been able to come for 3 years. So meetings and conferences and exhibitions are going to start to come back onto the agenda, and all of the economic activity that happens as a result of that kind of those events. And sporting events are coming back online. From what I understand, the Tennis Masters event, for example, in the fall is now scheduled to be back on. So all of that speaks to a broad opportunity of the rebound of the China market and economic activity and meetings and business, entertaining, and so on. Specifically, the landscape of the market has shifted over the last few years, and there are openings in the market for new listings, new products, new business relationships, and new business in general that generally speaking probably didn't exist before. So there are a lot of openings and gaps in the market that are needing to be filled. So it's a good time, in our view at Nimbility, to be leaning into the market and seeking out those opportunities and having your eyes wide open for what's available in China this year.
Well, in that case, zero COVID has been eliminated. Are we seeing business recovery?
Yeah, we're starting to. At the retail level, certainly there are a lot of good signs that the consumer is now coming back out. Restaurants in Shanghai are full. Hotel business is rebounding very, very well. It will, though, take a little bit of time for the trade infrastructure for the wine and spirits industries in China to repair and recover some of the damage from last year, and also to get the wheels of business turning again in terms of forecasts, inventory management, inventory pipeline, the typical process for an importer is to plan 2023 sales and volume and inventory based on the performance of 2022. But obviously this year you can't do that because 2022 is not the basis for what 2023 is going to look like. So it's a challenge for the trade to really get the wheels of business back in motion, to forecast what demand is going to look like in 2023, and to prepare inventory accordingly. And that's coupled with obviously the ongoing logistics, sort of snarled logistics platforms, longer lead times. So all signs are that there is a strong rebound starting to occur in mainland China, but it will take a while for the trade to get back up to speed.
Then what recommendations would you give to brands now who are trying to enter or reignite their China market?
Well, reignite is a good way to put it. And I think if you look back to 2019, prior to the start of COVID to now, so much has changed. So I think it's important for every producer to take a fresh look at the market. Nimbility, for example, offers a brand health assessment service that profiles your brand in China, your pricing, your online presence, and visual identity and distribution, which is very useful at this point to take stock of where you are. And before you start thinking about what the next step is, taking stock of where you are and where your brand sits. I think it's always super important for those of you who are here already to engage very actively with your importer, talk to them about the year ahead, explore what opportunities might exist, what support they need from you, how you can help them, and what's on the horizon with them as well as a business. And as always, and many of you have heard me say this many, many times, it's all about creating brand, building brand in the market, consumer franchise, consumer interest, awareness, notoriety of your wine with the right kind of wine buyers. The digital space is essential for that, so it's definitely worth taking a renewed look at how your brand lives in the digital space in China with WeChat and Douyin and Little Red Book and all of the other platforms that are very unique to China. But yeah, I think taking a step back, it's a time to refresh your view on the China market and to put some specific action steps in place about what you're going to do over the next 12 to 24 months as this market opens up again.
Well, Ian, then would you give the same advice to an Australian producer?
There's been a lot of curiosity about the persistence of the punitive tariffs on Australian wine, which we loosely refer to as the Australia wine ban, and whether or not there's a thaw in the relationship and maybe those tariffs are going to be eliminated. We don't see any evidence of that yet on the horizon. There was a change made specifically with coal imports from Australia, but it's important to note that Australian coal is needed by China. Australian wine is not needed by China. So until we see hard evidence that there's going to be a change made to those tariffs, I'm afraid that for the Australians, it's going to still be a bit of a waiting game until the market opens back up. The market, however, will open back up for Australia. China is an essential piece of the puzzle for any serious wine producer that is addressing Asia. There are other great markets up here, Japan, Indonesia, South Korea, but China is essential. So ultimately, our Aussie friends are going to come back into the market, and we're going to help them do that when the time comes. But I think for now, it's going to be an ongoing question of what the Chileans and the French and the Spanish and the other producers are going to do in the absence of Australia for the next couple of years.
Okay, Ian, last but not least question. Are there any particular trends you're seeing of interest, and what is the outlook for this year and beyond?
Yeah, it's a challenging time to talk about trends coming out of such an anomalous year last year, but and China's a very complex place. There's a lot of things going on. But I think an important one, though, to touch on is the fact that you have a younger generation, mid-20s to mid-30s, urban white-collar professionals in the major urban centers around China that continue to be interested and enthusiastic about wine and exploring wine. We continue to see very great wine bars, including Pudao Wines here, but also another wine bar company called Wine Universe, the Little Psalms. These are places where the younger generation is going and enjoying wine and doing blind wine tasting, and that kind of energy and enthusiasm gives us a lot of hope. The China market for many years was centered around middle-aged Chinese businessmen in a Chinese restaurant drinking Bordeaux or drinking big red wine from Australia. And so to see the next generation exploring and enjoying enthusiastically wine from all over the world in different styles and types, and to a certain extent a little bit of natural wine, and some of that has been emerging here as well. That's really exciting, and I think it sets the stage for a whole nother generation of wine lovers in China that's going to keep us busy for many, many years to come. Well, thank you, Nicole, and a big thanks to Pudao for letting us do our shooting here. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope it was informative and useful. You'll see a few more of these probably coming down the pipe this year. But in the meantime, if you have questions about anything that I've said today or anything else about China or your brand in China, we're always here at Nimbility to help. And thanks again for watching.